Hey guys, Jinx here, and today I want to show you my improved alpha catching strategy. The fundamental of this strat isn't too far off my previous strategy, however I have found some new additions that make it much more consistent. I'd like to give a thank you to Alpha Melodic for inspiring this strategy after I ended up in about a 30-minute battle with one using Aqua Ring and Recover. With the basic contrary Spinda into Breloom, it proved to be really annoying to deal with as I just couldn't keep it at low enough HP, I kept having to false swipe it, and so I really needed to work through some new additions to the team to ensure that that never happens again. First off, let's quickly cover what alphas are, in case you don't know.
Fuck you, bitch, stay in the kitchen and make me a sandwich.
Basically, every in-game day, an alpha will spawn. It varies at what time it'll spawn, but it will be once per in-game day, which is a 6-hour period in real life time. Once they spawn, they last for 75 minutes. Alphas have a red outline, are a bit bigger, and have a hidden ability. Other than that, alphas are no different than a regular Pokemon with hidden ability access, other than when caught, it's guaranteed to have a minimum of 2 times 31 in its IVs. In the fight, sometimes an alpha will get +1 to all of its stats when a ball is thrown at it. However, you will see how we can change this to a -1 instead. If they get too many negative stat boosts, they can go indignant, which means that their negative stats swapped positive. So if you push it to -6 in all of its stats, it'll now flip to +6 in all its stats. This can be a big problem because +6 in speed and attack can definitely wipe your whole team. So I'll show you how we deal with that in just a minute. The last thing to mention about alpha swarms is that they do come in a swarm. This means that there will be 3 other regular Pokemon around them. These actually have a low chance of having hidden ability on them as well. Most of the time they aren't really worth checking, however in some cases where it has a valuable hidden ability like Spinda, Dragonite, or Riolu, it might be worth checking these other swarm Pokemon. To do this, just use skill swap on them before engaging with the alpha and see what ability that they have. If it is a hidden ability, then just catch it quickly, otherwise you could just run away. Now that we know what alphas are, let's take a look at the team we're going to use to catch them. The first and most commonly known member of the team is a hidden ability, Spinda. The hidden ability, Contrary, flips any stat changes, which means if you get a positive stat change, it's going to go to negative and vice versa. This will be very useful when paired with the move Skill Swap, which swaps the skills of your Pokemon with your opponent's Pokemon, putting Contrary on the alpha. Now when you throw a ball at the alpha, all their stats will go down 1 instead of up. The other moves aren't really necessary. However, if you don't have Ocarinas, you can teach Spinda Flash, Strength, and Rock Smash in the other slots. As for EVs, I just recommend going 252 in speed and the rest really don't matter. You're literally just going to be using Skill Swap and then waiting for it to die so that you can safe swap out. Actually having HP and defense EVs is detrimental in this case because it just means it's going to survive for longer. For IVs, 31 speed is ideal but not really needed. Just get a decent speed IV and a plus speed nature like Jolly, and you'll be fine. The next Pokemon is our main catcher, and this is a Poison Heal Breloom with a Toxic Orb. This is a pretty standard catcher, but the healing is really important for this strategy. The most ideal nature is Adamant to do the most damage, and for IVs, I recommend 31 attack and 31 speed, and a decently high stat in defenses. I use 25+ in all 3 defenses and it works perfectly fine. For EVs, you just want 252 attack and 252 speed, just to make sure he's fast enough to outspeed stuff and your false swipe attacking is max damage. As for your moveset, you're going to want Spore, Substitute, Double Team, and False Swipe. Spore is used to consistently put the alpha to sleep, Substitute will be used to keep Breloom safe and ensure it doesn't get a one-hit knockout on it by any of the alpha's attack. When you Spore, you put it to sleep for 1 to 3 turns, and then Substitute takes 1/4 of your HP, where Poison Heal will heal you for 1/8 of your HP. This means if you Spore and then sub, you'll always heal back up to your full HP. This is also why I don't recommend replacing Poison Heal with leftovers, since that only heals 1/16 of your health, so you'll actually run out of health over time. Spore and sub can be used indefinitely until your PP runs out, which I've never seen happen. If you're worried about that, you could PP max your Substitute though. The next move is Double Team, and this is just to improve the consistency a little further. I usually Spore, then sub, and then if it's still asleep, I'll use Double Team to increase my evasion to usually just +2. This is typically enough to ensure that I can keep my sub up for longer and get more chances at throwing balls before having to use sub again. Keep in mind if an alpha misses, its next turn is guaranteed to hit. So using Spore will bypass this because it'll be asleep on its next turn. Lastly, False Swipe is used to bring them down to 1 HP for maximum catching percentage. Once it's at 1 HP and you have increased evasion from Double Team, you just cycle Spore, Sub, and a ball until it wakes up, where you Spore again. If the sub is still up, you can go straight to balls, but always just make sure the sub is up just in case. Next up is Smeargle. The only move you really need on it is Soak, just in case we come across Grass, Ghost, Rock, or Steel types. We want to use it on Grass types to allow Spore to put them to sleep, Ghost types so that False Swipe and Super Fang can be used on them, and Rock and Steel types to increase the damage from False Swipe due to their resistance to normal type attacks. You can also Soak Dark types on the off chance it goes Indignant, because we are using Prankster to solve that problem, but usually this isn't really necessary. Other than that, none of its moves really matter. If you're missing Ocarinas, you can add Surf, Waterfall, and Whirlpool to the Smeargle, since none of the other teammates on this team can learn those. For IVs and EVs, you really just need 31 speed if you're just using it as a Soak Smeargle. However, if you want to just make a standard catching Smeargle, usually 31 attack, 31 speed, and 25 plus in your defenses is good enough. You'll also just want 252 speed EV, or if you're using this as a catching Smeargle with False Swipe, you can also put 252 into attack, but it's not super necessary if you're just using it to Soak. I use Adamant on mine just because I do sometimes use it as a False Swipe catcher. However, if you're using this one specifically just for alphas, you could go Jolly on it with just 31 speed and 252 speed, and the rest of it doesn't really matter. But feel free to use any standard catching Smeargle for this. Our next team member is Golbat. This one's just here for Super Fang, which will always do 50% of the Pokemon's current health, so the attack stats really don't matter on this one. This will typically take the alpha's HP down much more quickly than False Swiping, and also you don't risk killing it. The reason I use Golbat over other Super Fang users is because it's really bulky with the Eviolite item. This allows you to get several Super Fangs off before it goes down. It also has a good base speed stat, so it can easily outspeed the alpha, even with a budget build. Ideally, you want some bulky IV stats, however, it really doesn't matter too much. It just depends how many Super Fangs you want to get off before it goes down. Ideally, you'll want bulky IVs in the 3 defense stats, along with a high speed. However, it really doesn't matter too much, since that's just going to get you maybe an extra Super Fang off before it goes down. However, again, it's not a big deal for this one. Like you can see, mine is super budget with a neutral nature, and I just kind of bought a random one off the GTL. For EVs, I went all in on HP and speed, but you could distribute them into defenses as well. I don't think it matters too much on this, just make sure you give it some speed so it always goes first. The only move this thing needs is Super Fang. However, if you're missing the Ocarinas, you can add Fly and Defog to it, since you will need Defog for some of the alphas. The next Pokemon we're adding is either Lopunny, Golurk, or Swoobat. Their role is to remove healing from the alpha. All 3 of these have the Klutz ability, which shuts off the effect of their held item. This will be used with either Lopunny's Switcheroo or Swoobat and Golurk's Trick. Keep in mind, Switcheroo is an egg move for Lopunny, so you'll need to breed it with a Zangoose or a Smeargle who have that move already. The reason we want this ability is so we can put an Assault Gear on it, and then we can trick that onto the alpha. The Assault Gear prevents status moves from being used, which Switcheroo and Trick are, but with the ability Klutz, it actually allows you to use those moves because you shut off the ability of the item. However, once it's on the alpha, it prevents them from using their status moves like Roost, Recover, or Aqua Ring. I prefer using this over a choice item because you worry less about PP issues. Since they can use multiple attacks, they just can't use their healing moves. You also don't risk tricking a choice item onto the alpha and then them using Recover right away, which would lock them into that and cause them to repeatedly heal. For these guys, none of their stats really matter except for speed, so a Jolly Nature and 31 speed IV is ideal, along with 252 speed EV. The reason I prefer Lopunny over Swoobat and Golurk, other than the obvious assets, are that it has Healing Wish, which speeds up the safe swap. Instead of waiting for it to die or risking a hard swap, you just use Healing Wish and can go straight into your next Pokemon. Also, it can learn Cut in case you're missing that Ocarina. The final member of our team is a prankster, Murkrow. The only purpose of this is in case the alpha goes indignant, causing their stats to swap. If an alpha suddenly has +6 in every stat, it can cause problems since it'll outspeed our Balloon and land a one-hit knockout. Prankster allows status moves to go off first, and we can use the move Haze to remove all status changes, resetting the alpha to neutral stats. None of the stats on Murkrow matter, since it has Prankster, it'll ensure it always goes first regardless of its speed. And we're just swapping into it to use the one move, and then we're going to go back to Breloom. From my testing, an alpha will only ever go indignant one time per fight, so one Haze user seems to be enough. I don't recommend hard swapping into Murkrow just because it's not very tanky, so you could just swap into one of your other Pokemon if you have one available. Like if you didn't use Lopunny or Smeargle in this fight, you can sack them and then safe swap into Murkrow from there. So now that the team is out of the way, let's take a look at some last details on alphas before we look at the team in practice. Before going into an alpha encounter, there's a few things I recommend. First, if you're newer and aren't sure if a certain hidden ability is valuable, search on the GTL for a hidden ability of a species of the alpha. If the lowest price of that species seems pretty high, then it's worth checking the other swarm mons for hidden ability, otherwise just ignore them. The next thing is to look out for the alpha's moveset. The easiest way to do this is either have a teammate link the alpha in team chat after catching it, and then you can check their moveset from there since they'll all have the same one, or go on Petrowski's Discord and check the alpha callout channel. Pat's community is incredible with alpha callouts, and they typically have the moveset posted just minutes after it pops up. If you see a healing move like Roost or Recover, then use Lopunny first. Otherwise, you can skip her completely in the run. Lastly, I just want to discuss which balls to use. Alphas have a low catch rate, meaning you'll typically use quite a few balls to catch them. While you can often use just a cheap basic Pokeball, you'll often have to use many of these, which means you're running a higher chance of it going indignant. Some Pokemon have really low catch rates like Ditto, and would take forever to catch using Pokeballs. So there's 3 balls I recommend using for catching alphas. The first and most consistent one is a netball. After soaking the alpha with Smeargle, they become water type, which means you have a 3.5 base catch rate on them using a netball. This could be good if you're throwing early balls. However, the next 2 have a 4 times catch rate, so I typically prefer them. Dream balls get a 4 times catch rate on the second turn of sleep. So those can be great with this strat since you're going to be using sub or double team on the first turn of sleep anyways. However, the best ball to use in my opinion is timer balls. Once you hit turn 11, these balls reach a 4 times catch rate. Since the setup for alphas can take a little while with skill swapping, super fanging, sometimes using switcheroo or soak, then sporing, subbing, and setting up some double teams, it's often turn 11 by the time you're ready to throw the ball anyways. I like to keep all 3 on hand just in case I do get set up early though, but decide which ball works best for you. Now that we know what alphas are, what's special about them, the most consistent team to use, and what balls to bring, let's take a look at how it all comes together. Alright, so we have a really good example of one to do this strategy on here. Because Mantan has Aqua Ring, we don't want him getting that off or he'll be healing the whole time. So we're going to do Switcheroo right away. Typically I lead with Spinda unless they have a move like Aqua Ring. But in this case, I definitely don't want him getting an Aqua Ring off. So now all of his moves basically are shut off except for Scald. I'm gonna use Healing Wish here just to make sure that I get a safe swap out. If I hard swap into something, there's a chance, like if I hard swap into Spinda, there's a chance that he one hits Spinda. It's unlikely, but we don't want to take any risks. So here we're just gonna skill swap. Now he's got Contrary and the Assault Vest. And now we're gonna just swap into Golbat. Golbat is very tanky, so I usually don't mind hard swapping into him. It's preferable that Spinda dies. Even if he gets a burn here, it doesn't matter because Super Fang is a flat amount of damage. Now PP could be a problem here just because he only has 1 attack because he's running Toxic, Aqua Ring, Recover, which are all shut off by the Assault Vest. But we're just going to keep sporing right after this and then we should be fine. This is also why I don't recommend using choice items compared to using an Assault Vest. Because if you use choice items, you're locking them in on one move and you'll always have this kind of worry about PP. So I recommend just using the Assault Vest because most things have more than 1 attack, so they won't have 3 status attacks. It's pretty rare, but I thought that this was a really good example because of that, because this is kind of worst case scenario for trying to deal with an alpha because of the healing. Now we have him at 1 HP, a sleep, and a sub up. So next I'm just going to put a double team up. This is just in case he wakes up and then hits my Breloom. It'll make it less likely that he actually breaks my sub, which gives me more chance to throw balls as we progress. Now he's guaranteed to hit on his next turn, but if we put him to sleep, then the next turn he won't be able to attack, which bypasses that. I'm gonna use 1 more double team. I usually find +2 is good. If you're really concerned, you can go to +6, but I just don't find that's very necessary. Alright, so now he's asleep, we have a sub up, we have +2 evasion, and he's at 1 HP. So now we're gonna swap over to Dream Balls. Anytime it's turn 2 of sleep, we're gonna use Dream Balls. And then once we hit turn 11, we're gonna swap over to Timer Balls. I think we're at turn 10 right now. I probably should have been counting, which would make us pretty much able to switch over to Timer Balls now. We're almost at max, and next turn will be max. So I'm gonna use Timer Balls from here on. All right, and caught. And that was a really good example of why we don't want Aqua Ring. And if we look at his moveset, he had Roost, Aqua Ring. Both of these together make it so hard to catch an alpha because the Aqua Ring constantly heals and Roost puts it up 50%. So instead of waiting those out or trying to catch while he's very healed up or trying to like false swipe him back down, we just use the assault vest, and that cancels out all that healing. If this video helped you out, consider giving it a like and subscribing to help me grow the channel further and reach more people with these kind of strategies. I appreciate any and all support, whether it's just to subscribe or if you want to go above and beyond with a YouTube membership. Thank you so much to our current supporters, either here on YouTube or the subscribers on Twitch. Feel free to come hang out live with me, usually Friday nights, MST. I'm streaming both here on YouTube and on Twitch, so stop by and come say hi. Thank you all for watching all the way to the end, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.